I don't have an idea for how to end.
Oh yeah. I should have looked something up. I don't know. We could talk about I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything recently either. Like that's fun or interesting to share.
Welcome to our show, guys.
yeah.
Where we have nothing fun or interesting to share. This is the Media Boys. I think it's episode 5 or 4. I honestly can't count, so I don't know. But I am your host, Andre, and here with the other host,
Lucas. Lucas is here as well.
We are here to discuss some forms of media. Normally...
About 3, to be specific.
Yeah, about 3. I mean, maybe we'll chime in with other allusions into those topics, but in terms of our core discussions,
like magic? Illusions?
No, allusions. You know literary terms, Lucas. We're not doing magic. I mean, if you want to start us off with a card trick that they can't see,
That's the best way to start a podcast.
Exactly,
with a card trick.
They're
Is this your card? No, okay.
We had to wait for them to call in, and they're just making guesses.
Comment below if this is your card. Next episode we'll go next card. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, honestly, I think we should just kind of get right into it because, truth be told, there's not really a lot of news that isn't just outright depressing.
Yeah, it's always a sad life.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I saw, and this is only pertaining to me, because I do make plans to go to the AFI Film Fest this year, because I didn't go last year. I mean, I went virtually, but I only saw, 5 movies. I saw a lot less than I expected to see.
You want to be, physically there at the event?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing, a in-person hybrid thing, so there might be certain screenings I go out in person to see, but honestly, the room I'll get, I'm gonna bring my laptop along with me, which is what I've done, because prior to the COVID year, I had gone back-to-back years. Well, actually, technically 3 years. I had gone in 2017, but I only saw 3 movies there. It wasn't a full event.
Yeah,
thing.
You went there for 1 day, I think.
Yeah, well, I went back 2 days, because one day I saw 2 movies with a friend of mine, but only one was at the festival, because we saw 3 billboards prior to that at the ArcLight Theater, which is now shut down, R.I.P. But yeah, and then I saw another one at the festival with him, and then I had another friend who I took a couple days later. So I'd technically been there 2 days, but it wasn't canonical.
You just went, yeah.
2018 was really the first year where I made an event out of it. I was basically a festival rat. I was there all 8 days. I was pretty much doing nothing but watching movies, 3 to 4 movies, pretty much every single day. And I did that with the next year in 2019. And so when 2020 happened, they weren't doing it. They were doing it online. It was a little bit oh, that's unfortunate. It was a bummer. Obviously, I understand why. And now they're doing a hybrid event where everybody must have proof of vaccination as well. So it's LA, so you can't say it's safe, I guess, in terms of the COVID thing. But, if you're vaccinated, it'll likely be, better. And I'm not going to be going out probably all the time. I wonder if they're going to,
space, if they're going to have, for the showings, are they going to have space out to seeing, or you think they're just going to have it whatever, No,
I think that, since everyone's vaccinated, I don't think they'll feel the need to have to do the social distancing thing. I mean, I'm sure that they'll still be mindful about the mask situation. They'll probably still have you be masked during the screenings.
When you're in line or outside, you have the social distance, But
yeah, perhaps that. And listen, I'm more than likely doing a mixture of going there versus, online, so depending on what showings. I mean, obviously they haven't announced anything. The only 2 big things they've announced is they're going to have the world premiere of Lin-Manuel Miranda's next film, Tick, Tick, Boom, starring Andrew Garfield, which is a musical.
Spider-Man.
Well, if you ask him, he's not Spider-Man. At least not anymore, but yeah, so I think that's the opening night. And then the final closing film is going to be King Richard, the Will Smith film, where he plays Serena Venus Williams' father in a biopic and stuff like that. And it's kind of about him training them to kind of become the tennis players that they were and stuff. Okay. Yeah, King Richard has some buzz for Will Smith. A lot of people saying that this might be his year to win an Oscar.
Wow.
So if he is truly that good, this could be definitely a big year for Smith.
Good for Will Smith.
I mean, it seems like a competitive lead actor race this year, just from what I'm seeing. So, I mean, that's really the only things.
It's still early,
Obviously, yeah. I mean, Oscar season doesn't really start until like late November, early December.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of awards films, I mean, obviously any film can be
December
awards
31st,
films.
always
Yeah.
coming out as award films.
Yeah, sometimes it's just you just gotta come out for a day and that's it, you know. Anyways, speaking of films, our first discussion is going to be a film.
Photography.
Lucas and I were looking through movies. This is a mutual recommendation.
Maybe you guys can guess what it is.
Yeah, I'm sure that.
Maybe they're not cut up, with the continuity.
Oh, that's very true. I'm sure that
like
they'll
a part
know
skipper,
the part skipper.
Skipping episodes.
So here's what's happened. We're watching Dolemite from 1975. We were looking through, and Lucas was like, "Hey, you remember that Eddie Murphy movie? Dolemite Is My Name. We could just watch that Dolemite movie that they were
biopic
basing
about
it
this
off."
movie,
Yeah. And so yeah, Dolemite basically Rudy Ray Moore.
Yes.
That's not necessarily best for tongue twisters, I guess.
That's true.
It's basically the story of a pimp who cuts a deal with, I believe, the warden to be released from prison in order to, stop a rival member whose name was... I'm trying to remember.
Willie Green was his
Willie
bad
Green
guy.
was the villain, yeah. And he is responsible for the death of his nephew, I believe.
Yes,
and that was
did
the
happen.
inciting incident.
That was off camera, but yes.
Oh, okay, the death was off camera, but they mentioned it on
mentioned,
camera.
yes.
So that's kind of the sparking incident. So he goes back to his home where all his ladies are, and so there's kind of this war between him and Willie Green, and that's basically what the plot is. You're just kind of following him, having this kind of exploitative journey with the people around him and stuff.
Yeah, and the culture and stuff. You get to learn all the intricacies, like the mayor, he's in on it, he's dealing drugs, and he's teamed up with Willie Green, and of course there's crooked cops that know Dolemite's out, so they're trying to bust him,
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get him. There's also another cop who we learn later in the film is actually an FBI agent, but we think he's just a good cop. And he's on Dolemite's side,
Yeah.
So that really happens. He's like, oh, hey, at least he's got some guys in his corner, and his ladies, of course, who aren't just pretty faces,
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Well, I'm saying canonically.
They are actually ninjas.
Yes.
I guess while he was in prison, they basically trained in the art of how to be a ninja, and basically martial arts and beating people up and stuff. Even though... Unfortunately, we kind of rarely see any of that in the movie.
It's definitely more told than shown, Mm-hmm. That's what they say. It's tell, not show, right?
Yeah, and I found that this movie had a lot of that. A lot of telling and occasional showing. This is a very tough one to kind of grasp because obviously... I'm not the target demographic for this, this is definitely a 70s blaxploitation film. And there is more of an audience of people who are either part of that culture or are more appreciative of that culture. And, watching Dolemite Is My Name, which I think is a very good movie that has a really great, sense of, passion and, forward thinking about, just trying to get, a movie made, and that did give me an appreciation for Dolemite that I may not have had if I had just watched this, not knowing the context
in this day and age,
it.
yes. I would agree with that.
Yeah, if I had seen this 5 years ago before Dolemite Is My Name came out, I may not have had at least appreciation for this. Because at least when you're watching the movie, you can definitely tell that there is passion within the movie. You can definitely tell that the people who made it definitely grew up on these exploitation type films, that they understand what type of scenes are supposed to go in.
They knew the era they lived in, and they understood what they were making, and they knew it wasn't no Oscar award winning movie.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be like that, and I'm not judging it on the scale of all the greatest films ever made, right? But
the Citizen Kane of blaxploitation.
Yeah, but I also have to be honest with how I felt watching the movie. And the truth of the matter is that I just wasn't really that engaged with the story they were telling. There are definitely good aspects of the movie. I do really like the 70s time capsule that this film captures, You can definitely tell the time period it was in, and especially with how the costumes look, how they kind of present themselves,
so many suits.
Yeah, there's a lot of suits in this, and a lot of the costumes are pretty gorgeous, honestly. despite me not being heavy on the movie, like, if I were, like, an Oscar voter, I might have given this, like, a nomination for costume design. I really like the look of all the characters, and they definitely had
I
well-representative...
don't think they reused, like, the same outfits.
Exactly,
yeah. Dolemite always had, like, different outfits, and I know because he's a pimp, so he's got to have...
different, like, aesthetics and stuff. There's literally a scene where he leaves prison, and they change his outfit.
Outside the prison yard, in front of the gate, all the guards are watching.
Oh, that's... See, and then those are fun scenes. Like, there are really fun moments in this, and like obviously in terms of like the craft of the movie, it's very low budget. It's very much an independent
not, like, super
feature.
Low budget though, but
well, you got to understand it. Like it is low budget for the time. The estimated budget was about $100,000, which mid-70s money might be a little higher now. Obviously,
no. What I'm saying more is it didn't feel like a low budget film. You know?
Sure. I mean, I guess in terms of like the scope and what they were doing, because it did definitely feel
there wasn't like they didn't put themselves in positions where they needed to show like a big explosion or a big flashy like not CGI, but like a practical effect kind of thing. So everything was really like grounded, where it all looked like, okay, yeah, this could have been filmed on a shoestring budget, but it doesn't look like that. You know, the camera work is decent. You know, there's nothing like extras. No, there's no big scenes with extras, but it's sort of like they avoided having to spend the money. You know,
right,
so that they could use all the money and make the best movie they could with that. I think it was very responsible.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that they made it understanding the budget they had, you know?
Unlike some people, you know?
Oh, yeah, sometimes people just waste away budgets, man. You see movies that are like $100 million, you're like, how? How did you spend that? Go? How did The Room cost $7 million?
Who got a $6 million fucking salary, you know?
Right. But there are definitely commitments to the performances, and even though not every actor's like good per se, there are some that actually are quite charming and quite interesting. You know, there's this like homeless, like maybe not homeless, but like this kind of like person he meets after he gives like this speech to people in a parking lot, and like I actually thought that performance was pretty accurate to like that type of person that you would see. You know, he was kind of like squinty, he wasn't really like making eye contact, but he was telling the story in a very like genuine way, you know. And there are other like performances, like I do like Willie Green. I actually do think he is kind of an effective like villain for this type of movie, you know. And it's interesting because Rudy Ray Moore as like a person, he's not like the typical black male leading man. Yeah. You know?
And that was a big theme in the Dolemite movie.
Yeah, in the Dolemite movie, they did bring that up. Yeah, Dolemite was my name. That's what we were referring to. That like, he's not necessarily the type of person you would cast in this. And I do appreciate that in a way that, you know, obviously part of it could have been budgetary. They may not have been able to find like somebody to do it, but another part of it is that it is a passion project, you know, and like you can definitely tell that there was a lot of kind of love put into it. And I guess that kind of makes it weirder that like I don't really connect with the movie as much as I think I should, you know, because I don't really think the story itself was doing anything different than I expected it to do. And to the point where actually there were scenes that I felt were very overdone and overlong. Like, for a movie as short as it is, there are a lot of scenes of like Dolemite really just chewing up the scenery, you know? Like, there's a scene where he's in a parking lot and he's doing like a whole Dolemite routine for them for free, basically.
It sounds like it's like a slam poem or something.
Yeah,
you know?
almost. And like at that point, I was kind of wondering. I feel like this is going on for too long. And maybe if I found like the humor
more into it,
if I was more into it, if I found the humor more endearing or something like that, or like I felt like connected to it, I might not have like disliked it as much. But there was a point where I was kind of wondering why the scene is going on for so long. And there's another stage scene later in the movie that pretty much does the same thing, where you see this whole one-shot performance on a stage. And at that point, I was kind of wondering, does this really have much to do with anything? Like, this feels like a lot like padding.
Yeah, I definitely, like, one of two things. Obviously, either they, as the scriptwriters or whoever makes the film, couldn't think of more scenes to add in this film. You know, because I think with those two scenes combined, you have about 10 minutes right there.
Yeah, you could have chucked...
Maybe 6 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, and I don't even think you need to chuck the whole scene.
No,
but
that's
it's
just like... trim them down. Like, you keep the scenes, you just trim them down. You have 6 to 8 minutes more footage. That's a whole nother scene, you know?
Right,
With new actors, not new actors, but new writing and everything. So either they didn't have the time they didn't want to, or they just simply couldn't think of anything to do, and so they had to pad these scenes out. Or, and this is what I think is more likely, is they really just thought they hit. You know, I'm sure with the audiences, like that Dolemite scene, I can see people really enjoying that.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. No. I completely agree with that. And what I will also say is that in terms of, like, if I were a teenager raised in the 70s and I watched this movie,
you know?
Yeah, and like, I don't know what I would have felt, but I can only interpret what it is watching it in retrospect. So, like, don't take me saying that, like, I'm not as into it as, like, a complete negative thing because it's
like nobody would be into it.
Yeah, because it's obviously not a movie for me. And listen, on the budget it made it about $12 million, which is a huge profit for a movie like this. And so there clearly is a large audience for this movie, especially at the time. But there's a lot of moments in the movie where I just kind of felt disengaged, you know, and apathetic in a way, not in the negative way where, like, I hated what was happening, but more in, like, I was kind of battling my own consciousness at times.
Did you say bored?
I would say bored. I would say the first half of the movie is very entertaining. It does have some good sequences and performances, and I love seeing the like the costumes and stuff, right? But there was a point in the story where I found myself just kind of being dejected to the point of, like, kind of falling in and out of sleep. I don't think I slept through the movie, right? And if I did, it was at that probably the stage portion, because I do remember a point where I was like, what?
Yeah, if you blinked out for 3 or 5 minutes right there, you'd wake up in the same scene.
Yeah, and
you might not have even known.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it could have been longer than I thought. I don't know. But yeah, like, I have to, you know, be honest with how I experienced the movie. And truth be told, I just kind of wasn't really feeling it all that much, you know?
No, I mean, that's understandable, of course. You know, you can't rate a movie from another perspective. You know, you can only give your opinion about it. You know?
Yeah.
I can say, and I'm not sure whether or not, like, for me personally, like I said, I'm with you in the fact that I didn't really enjoy them as much as I could have, you know? But not to say that it bothered me, you know? Like, I would sit in there and I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, this is something interesting, because the way I was viewing it was more of, like kind of like that whole 70s time capsule. Like, I'm like, this is something that worked at the time, you know? And it's something that I'm just not feeling. So I was more interested in, like, the discrepancy, you know, between what I was used to, what I would have expected from a film, and what this film is giving me, which for obviously at the time worked. I can't say it's a bad idea, I can't say it's shit, because it wasn't, you know, like, on an objective scale. But obviously on a subjective scale, to me, like, I wouldn't recommend it to any of my friends. I wouldn't watch it again, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to notice those two discrepancies. Something like, it's almost like a piece of popular medium, like one of those, I can't even think of what the word is. Not like devil's advocate, but like, well, you don't like something that everybody else loves.
Well,
you know?
it's just a difference of opinion at that point, or but not just difference of opinion, but it's also a different viewpoint, because sometimes there are people that can watch classic movies and just not feel them. You know, like, if you've never shown someone, I don't know, what's a classic 80s movie? Like, if somebody's never seen E.T., right? Like, if they never grew up with it as a kid, let's even go as far as to say that they've only heard the name, that they don't even know anything about the movie itself. If you sat them down to watch it, maybe they'll love it, but maybe they might not. And part of that reason could be that they're not grown up in that time period. Now, personally, I do think E.T. is more timeless than that, but in the sense of, like, experiencing a film from a different time, like, everyone's gonna kind of have their different viewpoint on it. And like, I can't personally say that I think the movie doesn't do what it sets out to do. But what I can say is that what it set out to do is something I didn't like. So it's not me criticizing the talent or the things I appreciated about the movie, but more so just expressing that overall the experience of it to me wasn't really anything all that noteworthy.
Would you say the whole was less than the sum of its parts?
Yeah, I think that there are some aspects of this movie that are better than the movie itself, you know? And that there's definitely talent there, and there's definitely passion there. But I don't know. It's gotten to the point where, like, there's not really a lot to discuss, you know? I do like some lines, like there are some classic lines
funny, yeah.
of like, you know, Dolemite is my name and killing motherfuckers.
It's like fucking up motherfuckers is my game. You know?
That's a great line. I also like particularly the line where someone mentions like, you're not afraid of ghosts, Dolemite? He's like, you see a ghost, cut the motherfucker.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yes.
That's such a great line, you know? And so like there are sparks of things that I was really interested in.
Not to mention that there was another character that we didn't mention. I like the priest, you know?
Oh yeah, okay. The priest character was interesting.
I enjoy him. He's sort of like I would consider like a neutral party. Like at the end, he does help Dolemite, you know. But he gets like he just runs a church, you know. But obviously, it's like a front for guns and stuff, you know. And the crooked cops know that, but they don't bust him because he's like a pillar of the community and he helps them out sometimes. But Dolemite's the same way, you know. Like he's like a pillar of the community and he doesn't want to hurt him. But he doesn't have the cops in this movie, at least. I don't know. It was implied that they go to him for questions sometimes, you know. And I wouldn't think that he would tell them no every time. But in the movie, when the cops went to talk to the priest, he didn't snitch on Dolemite. And then later in the film, he helps out Dolemite, you know, with the information.
So maybe he's more on Dolemite's side that he might lead
because I don't know.
But maybe to Dolemite, he's trying to like get out the front.
He's like a middleman, so I don't know which side we're supposed to get from him, you know. And I kind of did like that. I like the kind of mystery of it. So I'm not sure if that's just bad, lazy writing or if that's intentional. They didn't want to perceive him as. Because he's like a church figure, maybe they don't want to have him show one side or the other. Because obviously it's stereotypes, but people make things out of nothing, you know. So,
right, and it also could just be satirical, you know, because like the idea of like the black priest having like the lady in the back or the gun underneath his thing, like that's something that is definitely part of like this culture, and so they could have just been poking fun at that, you know. But I definitely like that character. Like honestly, like anything with the priest in them, I actually think might have been my highlights of the movie, and maybe that's why towards the latter half he becomes a non-factor in the story,
right,
which is maybe why like I was kind of feeling like the way I was and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this will be perceived, and it might seem like harsh to say, but I didn't really care that much for it. In terms of a rating, I think I'd give it like a strong 4. Strong 4. It's almost average. Like I think if I connected with some of like the story beats slightly more, and there were interesting ideas, but some of them I just don't think I just kind of think they fumbled it. You know, like they had the ball at times, but they kept like dropping, and eventually, to me, it's like they got an incomplete pass, and I was like, oh, that's kind of how I felt. So,
interesting analogy. Yeah, no, I would say, like I said, I'm level with you and more so, but I'm just not as critical of the movie, maybe just because I'm more of an optimistic guy when it comes to film, you know?
True, yeah. Like, and I mean, you've also seen a lot less than I have overall. I have a lot less to
judge it against, you know? So I would say, in my opinion, this is like a light 5 to me, you know?
Okay, which is not too far.
Which is not, you know? And like, now I meant to ask earlier, like, have like a sidebar here.
Yeah.
But like, because of the length of certain scenes in this film, do you think if there was like a re-edit, you know? That like removed a few minutes here, maybe like move the order of scenes.
Oh, okay. You're basically gonna ask like, would that change my perception?
Yes.
And I think
it'll be a new film.
And I think it might. Like I do think that if you did cut down some of the scenes and maybe rearranged a couple things and changed some stuff up, like this could have jumped a whole point for me. Like I could envision myself giving this like a strong 5. If like there were more portions I was interested in and some of the scenes were kind of cut down, you know? And listen, the light 4, like this is like, or the strong 4, I should say. This is like the strongest of them. Like I almost can't say the movie's bad because like that seems harsh, but like that's just kind of how I feel about it.
You can't just lie to yourself.
Yeah, and I can't lie to myself and say that. But what I will say is that it has its audience, and like this shouldn't deter anyone from like checking it out if you're curious.
If you think you're this target audience, you'll like it, you know? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
If you don't think that you're this target audience, you'll probably not hate it.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I feel like some people might if, like, they're, I don't know.
Well, they're just racist.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're racist out there.
If you don't like this movie, you're racist. This is the litmus test for racism. Everybody's got to watch it.
We've been lying this whole time. It's a 10.
Yeah. Secretly,
we love it.
We're like, it's like 1984, you know? We're like the bad guys. We're trying to get you on our
I've never read that book, actually.
Oh, no, it's a good book, though.
I hear it's a good book.
A lot of people, nobody really reads these books. I was one book I read. I don't know why I read it. I think I read it for school. Not even because of school. Like, I read it because, like, all the books in school, they're like, we gotta read these books. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that book, so I'm not gonna read it. Like, but that book, I'm like, okay, I'll read it. And then I started reading it, and I'm like, it's just a lot. A lot of the pages are just, obviously it's outdated now because, it's written at a time when there was no internet, So, like, all the ways that they talk about, because he's, like, a government worker. And this is, like, a sidebar, but I think we're done talking about the Dolemite.
Oh, yeah, we can go on the sidebar.
Okay.
We could have started with this, actually. But
no,
go ahead.
You know, I should have started with an interesting fact. I was not a fact about a book. It's not interesting.
Yeah, what? You don't think that's interesting? Some people like books.
No, of course. No, but in 1984, a lot of the book, he works at the government facility, the Ministry of, not Defense, Ministry of Information, I think it's called. And he basically, like, rewrites the history. So, like, there's the whole, like, point of the book, there's, like, a big war going on between, like, there's, like, 3 super countries, So, like, think of, like, giant, like, all of Asia as one country, like, Eurasia, there's East Asia, and then there's, Oceania, and then, the ones that narrated on, it's like, they're at war with East Asia, but then sometimes they change the war to Eurasia. So basically, he's got to go and, like, edit all the papers and stuff. It's, like, a really intricate process, the way it's explained, how, like, everything comes into the system, how he changes it, and how, like, the news changes it afterwards, Like, certain, like, maybe last week they said the chocolate rations will increase by 3 pounds. But then the next week they have to say, oh, they actually decreased. So they have to rewrite all the last week's news to say decrease, so that nobody can say, hey, they said they were increasing last week, Just sort of to spread these lies and misinformation.
Okay.
And I know that's, like, sounds boring probably to a lot of people, but to me that was very interesting. Because it wasn't like it was a book, it was almost like a historical novel, It's like,
it was written as if this was actually happening, basically.
Yes, like, this is the
and
world.
And for all we know, that's pretty much what sometimes has happened.
So that's why I'm like, okay, it's really interesting to see that kind of perspective where it's not like a satirical take where it's like, this is society, This is how society works. And maybe you're supposed to look at it and think that's fucking crazy, but the book doesn't make it seem like it's crazy.
Right.
And I really appreciate that about that, because like I said, a lot of works about, alternate history futures, dystopian futures, there is often a lot of satire in the film, because it's supposed to be satirical of our society,
Right, of course.
But I enjoy a film that would say it is its own society, and any comparisons or any grievances you make to your society is coincidental, and it's not intentional.
Okay.
In the film.
So you don't think that it's intentionally a commentary
on,
I mean, the world?
Obviously, at the end of the day, it is. It's a book.
Okay.
You don't write a whole book that's just on
without a point.
Yeah, and when you're as a writer, you can't remove your biases from other mediums. If you live in a world and you see death and destruction around you all the time, and you're writing about death and destruction, there's just going to be a parallel. It's what you're thinking is what you're seeing. And I'm not saying that this particular book, 1984, was meant to, like, not be satirical, because obviously it's referencing, society and stuff, and authoritarianism. But I think those certain parts in the beginning, those specifically, those first few chapters, where it's describing the system, it doesn't come off to me like, this is bad,
Right, okay.
But then towards the end of it, when you really get the whole reveal, and how the society like that works, like, how you explain how it works, but then you have to... Once you start really thinking about it, and then everything comes into play, then you kind of realize, okay.
Then you're like, oh shit, maybe this wasn't a good idea the whole time.
Yeah.
But
on the surface level, it seemed fine. So it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said drew parallels to, like, even today, especially with, like, a lot of, like, the misinformation going around with, like, COVID and just, not just, and it hasn't even really started with COVID. A lot of it is just period, because what a lot of people may not thought was misinformation could just be,
I think we've just been second guessing ourselves so much more now, than we ever were. Like, we used to take everything, not with a grain of salt, but we kind of just took everything as face value,
Yeah.
And, like, whatever anyone would say, we just like, okay, no one's gonna argue, just keep going with that. But then now it's like you take everything with a grain of salt. Like, what you said, well, I heard from this guy. Well, that guy's an idiot, don't listen to him. Well, that guy said you're an idiot. It's like, well, what do you do? Like, when do you make a decision?
Yeah.
And people are gonna call you the idiot, Like, you have to kind of pick a side.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's just with anything, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like humans
you know?
naturally force themselves to be in conflict with one another for no reason other than just wanting to be above someone else, pretty much.
I just feel like we like being angry.
We like being angry.
I think the anger emotion is like, humans like it more than the happy emotion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As somebody who's naturally almost never really angry, and anytime I am, it's like baffling. Like, I hardly ever really have outbursts in any way, at least not towards people, but, you know, that's just kind of like how I run emotionally, I guess. There are things that make me angry that I do kind of use laughter as a conduit through. Like, sometimes I'll laugh at something that's so confounding, you know?
Well, sometimes, yeah, because if you don't like being angry, especially if you're not good at being angry, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause some people kind of just are angry, but it doesn't like, they can't funnel it and channel it, and so the anger leads to nothing, you know? Like, they might as well have left the room, you know? Instead of getting angry, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing, like...
But if you can use humor as a way to channel it instead, then it's like a positive outcome towards the end.
Yeah, like, everyone feels anger, I guess, in some ways,
of course.
and I think that you just have to find the right way to channel it to benefit either yourself or people, like, around you. But... Anyways, speaking of raw rage and anger,
What transition!
What transition? We had a video game rec from myself.
This man,
I recommended a video game.
non-gamer.
The non-gamer, yes. And so I decided that with my personal recs, I would kind of cut down the games that I personally own. So I thought we would start off a trilogy. Well, not the whole trilogy. The first entry in a trilogy. The Batman Arkham Knight, which you already knew about. Arkham Asylum. What the fuck? we skipped a couple of them. No, we just played the wrong game.
Oh no!
I'm like, Lucas, I played Arkham Knight. You said that was the first one.
I was so confused. My joke was...
Oh, spoilers, I guess. Well, spoilers for everything here. Doesn't matter.
He was there. Joker was there.
All 3 games. Joker is in all 3 games. Is he in Origins?
Yes, yeah. He's all 4 games.
He is in all 4 games. Okay. Anyways, so, yes, Batman Arkham Asylum tells the story of Batman / Bruce Wayne, who gets...
Every time.
I'm sorry. I looked in your eyes for like 2 seconds. I was like, wait.
Batman is Bruce Wayne?
Like, holy shit.
Yeah. This is an interesting fact sidebar.
Okay.
For some reason, I was on a Batman thing last night, and I watched this video about... It was, like, canonically, like, the first people to, like, discover Batman is Bruce Wayne, you know? Not, like, having been told, like, just by doing their own research and digging and stuff, you know? And, like, I think it was, like, Lex Luthor had, like, just figured that Batman is probably somebody who's incredibly fucking rich, you know? So, like, he got, like, all the billionaires, multimillionaires in Gotham, and, like, in a giant room, like, kidnapped, you know? And then just, when Batman saved them by process of elimination, he just figured out that it was Bruce Wayne. He was the only one not in that room. And, like, similarly, too, like, Ra's al Ghul did the same thing, because he was like, oh, he's a millionaire, so he just, like, looked and was like, okay, what kind of stuff would Batman buy? You know, metals and stuff, so who's buying these kind of metals, you know? And he just kind of figured it out. But when Ra's al Ghul figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman, Bruce Wayne took, like, a lot extra steps to, like, hide all his money and stuff, you know?
Okay, he was like, alright, if it's that easy.
Yeah, he was like, this guy just Googled me and found out, what the fuck? I should be a little harder than that.
I'm sure in Gotham they have, like, conspiracy theorist sites where, like, the citizens could be like, Batman Bruce Wayne. Yeah. And then someone's like, Batman's totally Bruce Wayne, here's the proof.
Yeah, like a link, you know? Oh my god.
Well, anyways, yes, so we actually played this game. Basically, sorry, I just read that Billinger got a fractured rib. Ouch. Anyway, yes, sports ball. Man, we're going all over the place today. I kind of like this, though. It's a little bit more freeform, I think. So basically, the Joker hatches a plan to essentially block off the entire Arkham Island, and Batman must stop him from creating a toxin, the Titan toxin, right?
Yes, well, just in case, because you don't know who Batman is.
Oh, yes. Maybe, Lucas, you should give, like,
he's a superhero, you know, we all know superheroes, we all know Superman. Okay, I'm not gonna say Batman.
But you assume they don't know Batman?
You should. He's very popular. I'd be ashamed if you didn't know who Batman was. Anybody.
He's like top 3 superheroes, like, all time, I think, in terms of, like, popularity.
Right, in terms of, like, name recognition. So, like, you probably know who Batman is. But, like, you know, he works out of Gotham City. It's like a city, you know? He's really buff. He beats people up. He's got a lot of cool gadgets, you know? But he's just a person, just a human, just like you and I.
Well, not in this game. In this game, he's just Batman.
Yeah. Oh, that's true, yeah. There's no Bruce Wayne in this game. It's just Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. What's it called? Just Arkham Island. So there's like an asylum, and it sits on an island, and it's separated from the rest of the city. So the game takes place just on that island. it's like blockaded off. You don't get to actually go into the city or any other areas.
Yeah, you know.
But it's still a pretty big map. You know, it's still a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely areas to explore. You have like a bunch of like main buildings. I mean, you got the main building you enter in, which is like the intensive care unit, right?
Intensive treatment.
Intensive treatment, yeah. And then that's basically where Joker makes his escape. And pretty much from there, you're going like building to building, kind of exploring, trying to like help out like people that are kind of like trapped there, while encountering various different Batman villains. A lot of Batman villains you're encountering, anything from like Bane to Poison Ivy to I don't know, you get like cameos from like Killer Croc, Scarecrow, and you know, you usually have boss battles with a good amount of these, but they all come in kind of various different forms. Lucas, you actually played this game before I did a while back.
I played
multiple
times.
Multiple times. Okay, yeah. So this was my first time playing. So did this playthrough give you any different outlook on the game than you had before?
It made it feel a lot shorter.
Oh, okay.
Just having known anything, but also it is interesting. Just like to kind of like hearing like maybe I feel like I never really paid attention to a lot of the stuff that Joker would say. You know. In the previous times I played, or what anybody really said, you know? So, like, I kind of sitting down and listening to it as somebody who's, like, just played a lot of video games now, because I like in video games, like, one of the best things, well, in anything really, is the writing for me. I'm drawn to, like, good writing, you know? If it's comedic, if it's humor, or if it's straightforward, if it's supposed to be, like, introspective. I just like, you know, hearing things that make me, like, think. So, like, yeah, I'm now as an adult being drawn into the writing and playing this game again that I played when I was much younger, you know? Like in high school age, you mean middle school, you know? Well, not that old. I forget when it came out, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty early on. The year was 2010?
Yeah, 2010.
About 2010, I want to say. But, yeah, so, I mean, me playing this for the first time, you know, like, not necessarily having that appreciation for video games as much, but definitely knowing a lot, like, about the writing and stuff. I definitely am impressed that the video game actually kept a really good pace to it and a very good like sense of progress. There's always things that are coming up that you got to do, and even the main missions, there are things that are broken apart sometimes where you have to off track in order to do something else in order to help the main mission, but like the immediate has to kind of take precedence, you know. And it's just very Batman because, you know, with Batman solving a big time crisis, you know, and then meanwhile he's like, oh shit, there's like these smaller things I gotta end up doing.
And then go here.
Yeah.
He's doing something.
I mean, I like a lot of the gameplay in this, you know, I really do like the combat. I think it's very hard hitting. You get to do a lot of cool combos. I especially like using stuns and then like just knocking people
out,
you
super
know?
fast.
There's some really cool stuff that you can do with like I didn't do it as often, but like with your claw that you can like pull people in.
Yeah,
just like
you know, there's a lot of gadgets.
Like
you know, he's got like batarangs, so of course you can throw them at people to stun them. And then the claw. There's other kinds of claws too, but not claws. There's like a remote control batarang, you know, but that's not really good for combat.
Yeah, like the remote control batarang is kind of like you got to kill someone from somewhat of a distance, you know.
Distract them, you know?
Yeah, or use it as a distraction method. I mean, there were tools that you didn't really get until later in the game.
Yeah.
There are certain sections that you're like, okay, you only learn this much.
It's, you know,
basically.
like Metroidvania like that, where you go into a building, you can access most of it for your story, but there's areas that were blocked off. You'll leave, you'll do some other stuff, you'll get a new gadget, and then you can come back later and then get the areas that were blocked off, you know?
Yeah, and then there are even areas that are available to go through, but you just have to do it normally through jumps and stuff. There's a particular area where you can't really use your claw to climb walls because the structure is too damaged.
Right.
So you actually have, which, first of all, I don't know.
Is it too fast?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is Batman slim enough to where he wouldn't damage it if he just climbed up it? You know, I don't know. That was a thing that like I didn't really care for those sections that much, especially on like replay. Like not necessarily replay, but like playing after I'd beaten the game. Because one of the things is that like it did take me a little bit to beat the game, but I wouldn't say it was hard. I was just doing things on the way, you know? I wasn't necessarily trying to 100% complete it, but by the time, like, I finished it, I was trying to do that, I guess. And so there's a lot of interesting things that happen throughout your journeys, you know? Like, one of my particular favorite segments of the entire game is the Scarecrow sequences. There are sequences where Batman kind of goes under this, like, nightmarish, like, hypnotic state where his biggest fears are coming to light, and then you have to beat Scarecrow by aiming the bat signal in his face, but you have to kind of traverse through this weird like tornado type maze that he's always constantly looking at you for or looking for you at. So I really like those sequences. They were very dark, very fun, very creative.
Especially like in the beginning too. Like the first time it happened, I was kind of like, oh crap, what the heck is going on? Not this time playing because I knew it was, but I remember the first time I played it, you know, I was like, what the hell? Oh my god, he's like, because it's supposed to be like he goes in this vision and he sees Jim Gordon dead, you know, which is like the commissioner. So he's like, oh my god, Batman's like all distraught, you know, and he's telling Oracle. And then you have the little Scarecrow scene. So that whole time I was playing, I was like, oh, I don't even know like what's going on, you know, like is this really gonna happen? Like this is kind of a twist.
Oh yeah, especially this early on in the game,
like right at the beginning of the game practically.
And what's interesting too is that like the way that they go about with like the Scarecrow stuff, it's always like showing you know, the strength of Batman and the kind of like ability to kind of adverse fear. Like even in the third thing, like he's like, how are you surviving? Like I put enough in you to last like for 10 men or some shit, you know? Like I don't know, it kind of puts like Batman in a state where like Batman is really just on another level compared to most other people, like to the point where the villains themselves, you know, like
are like intimidated, you know?
They're like, really intimidated. They're like, okay, hold up,
how can you be a Batman is just that guy?
It's so funny though, because sometimes like when I'm fighting guys, I'll hear one of the guys like, you hit like a girl, and I'm like, you're saying this to Batman? What the
I don't know why they even get that bold, you know? Like,
like so how are they getting that bold?
These people are like, I wish Batman shows his face right now. I'll punch him out. I'll be the one to bring his head to Joker, you know? And it's like, what? You are gonna... How many hundreds of, maybe even thousands
of people at this point have said that.
How many times have you yourself probably have been beat up by Batman? In the hospital, in jail, out of jail.
He's like, we gotta...
Not this time.
Not this time. I've been training. I mean, Bane might be the only person that can, like, have legit cred in terms of, like... I can take Batman, probably, you know? But yeah, no, like, and then there's a lot of, like, fun interactions with, like, the characters. I do like Joker in this a lot. I think, obviously, he's a very intimidating villain, and he definitely has a lot of craziness about him, but you know, his plan is just off the fucking rails. He wants to just create like a army to follow him and stuff, which is like, wow. You know, and so many people, there's so many dead bodies throughout this entire like, thing. Like a lot of people are dead. Prisoners, security guards. Like there's a tough scene where this guy's like, please, I have a kid. And the dude's like, I don't give a shit. He didn't say that, but I was just like, whoa, shit. And then like, what was it? Oracle was like, okay, like she was searching, was like, oh, I guess Joker sent a picture of a dead baby. And I was like, wait, what? So does that mean that he already had a picture of a dead baby just offhand, or did he like kill a baby?
He could have been kill the next baby you see. And take a picture
like
of it.
these guards are like, like I killed my sister because Joker told me to, but I didn't care. I didn't like her anyway. I'm like, and this guy's like, well, you know, I personally, you know, don't have a sister. So when he asked me, I just ran over.
He was like, kill my sister. I don't have a sister. He's like, I kill her anyway. So I just ran over the first broad I saw on the street. And Joker was okay. And I'm like, damn, these people are just.
These people are like just legit evil. Like maybe that's why they have so much confidence in killing Batman, because they just don't give a fuck at this point.
Yeah, they're like, Batman has morals and I don't. So.
He'll never kill me, which I guess is true, you know. But like, I don't know. That's just crazy.
A lot of these blows seem very fatal, you know.
Oh yeah, like obviously, like you look at it and all of it is just unconscious.
Yeah,
they're unconscious, like 25 heartbeat. You know, you're like,
they're like in a coma, you know. They're still alive.
In the fine print, Batman's like, "Oh no, I never said I couldn't put him in a coma." You know, that's my rule. Yeah,
I think I consider vegetative state still alive. You know. So.
Oh man.
Okay. But let's see. But yeah, definitely the combat is the highlight of the game.
Yes.
You know, being able to interact and you get upgrades and stuff. You know, pulling off the combos, because as you're getting more combos, you can kind of attack people that are farther. You know. So especially when there's like large groups of people, like maybe like towards the middle of the game when you're about to fight Harley Quinn in like the prison area, the jail area with all those guys and like the electric floor. Remember that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
So that's a cool thing, getting to jump around and having to kind of traverse as they electrify the floor, because sometimes you have to climb up on the next level, and then you have to beat them up and then climb back down so you don't take damage. But something like that, they always try to like change up the combat a little bit. It's not just the same, just fighting people all the time. Most of it is, I think, but some of the scenes they take to the next level,
Right.
And there's I don't know, just like, what else you want to talk about? The plot maybe a little more?
Yeah. In terms of like things to bring up, well, I do like a lot of like the different aesthetics to some of the buildings. My favorite portions of the game actually, I think, are kind of in between the buildings where you're actually outside and you're on the island. So you can get to like transport between things. And I spent a lot of time, especially after the game, like searching up like Easter eggs, like the Riddler trophies. Trying to solve these like riddlers or riddles, I should say. And I do like the Riddler a lot, like in this game particularly. Like I didn't necessarily expect like his, because he's always present even though you never actually fight him in the game. Yeah. And I guess that can lead us into like some of the boss battles, some of the bigger like enemies that you're fighting, because a lot of the times, well, some of the boss battles are merely just like kind of like armies attacking you and you just kind of had to beat them up and stuff. Like when you're facing Harley Quinn, you're not really fighting Harley Quinn so much as you are like a bunch of goons she's sending after you. But there are some interesting like segments. Like I really like the Killer Croc segment too, actually, because I think like the whole timing thing where there's a portion where you have to go to Killer Croc's lair, and this is towards the end of the game where you actually have to collect some sort of anti-venom to the Titan thing because Poison Ivy herself has been infected with it by Joker. And so Poison Ivy was probably the strongest boss, I think, of the game. I love the Poison Ivy section because there's a lot you have to worry about.
Yeah,
you got the guards, she got like the the shooting things at you, the little weeds that come up.
Yeah,
like,
on the ground.
I really did love like that boss battle. In a lot of ways, I kind of think that was the peak of the game because like the Joker boss battle was fun, but like for as cool as his character design is, he doesn't really do a lot.
Right. I wish if I was a little more.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my criticisms of the game is that I do kind of think like it does fizzle out where like once you beat Joker, it's like, oh, everything's okay. Yeah. We got this thing under lock.
We got Joker. It's all good.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know, it seems a little underwhelming. And even still playing the game after the fact, like you could... I like the idea of like, oh, Harvey Dent's robbed a bank, and Batman's like, sorry, I had to do this. Like he's literally stopped Joker from destroying the whole city pretty much, and he's still like, all right, I got to stop other crime now, But I also think they could have done a thing where, there's still prisoners on the loose, so you gotta save all of them, and he would have been like, you know what, I'll help and save some of these things, and that could have given an excuse for Batman to still continue being at these places without that, But yeah, like, there are definitely other things that were a little clunky, like the kind of gliding in this game. Like I did think the gliding was fine at certain points when you had more open spaces.
Like outside, yeah.
Yeah, outsides. But like when you're trying to glide from like building to building, especially in like the areas or like that, like you got to do a lot more traversing, and it's very like very very linear.
Controls kind of,
Yeah. I did really like, that's what I was going to say about the Killer Croc thing too, which was after the, he's getting the anti-venom from that, and you kind of have to be quiet walking on these little ledges for like the ponds and stuff and the water, and he tries to attack you, and you have to use your little batarangs to hit him in the neck, and I thought this was very fun. It was a kind of different type of boss battle.
The closest to horror in the game.
Yeah, it was actually.
The Scarecrow scenes were pretty scary.
Yeah, the Scarecrow scenes are probably the most outright horror scenes, I would say. Which I do.
Like a suspenseful.
Yeah, like this one was like, oh, you never know when he's gonna pop up, And sometimes he'll come behind you, he'll come from the side, he'll come in front of you,
the music gets all tense.
And I got I'm like, what? Why is the music starting? And that just makes you scared. So yeah, and I mean. There's a lot of highlights in the game. There's a lot of cool, like, interactions when you're having to figure out some puzzles. I mean, some of them can be a little bit, like, difficult. And they're not, like, puzzles in the sense of, like, actual puzzles. But more, like, having to figure out how to traverse, like, certain areas. How to, like, get to people first before others, And I did like the stealth-based ones. Because I was kind of playing a stealth game from the get-go. I was trying to be as quiet as possible. So, like, when they had challenges where you're like, oh, you got to take them all out silently. I'm like, oh, easy. I'm prepared for this, But yeah, I thought the game was really fun. I mean, there's not really a lot in terms of like the length of the game. I mean, it took me about 10 hours to beat, but like the actual game story isn't really that long.
I think it's based off a comic book, that's why, you know?
Oh, okay. So there's already some type of like so
Yeah,
it definitely like there definitely seems like there's, you know, a lot of good stuff in here. Some clunky stuff, some story beats that I was kind of like on, you know. I do think that like the ending could have been a little bit more solid. But I'm definitely interested in continuing this game series at some point. I'd probably give it like a light 8 out of 10. I really liked it.
Yeah, no, I would suggest the same. 8 out of 10 is a good rating. You know, it's definitely a great game. It's fun doing all the stuff, you know, and like fighting people and using the gadgets and kind of just being Batman, you know? You just gotta walk around, and then like as the game goes on, a small detail if you notice like parts of his suit like deteriorate, you know, like on the back of his cape there's a hole in it, you know, and there's like scratches on his face like as the game goes on to show that he's still taking like damage, you know.
Oh yeah, no, the I do like that portion of it where it's like you see like the fighting scars that he has basically, because at the end of the day it's not like he's not getting hit or hurt, but like he's got to be like got to fight through that, you know. But yeah, glad we're on the same page as the Batman. So speaking of the Badman, our next topic of discussion is Michael Jackson's Bad. This was a rec from you, right?
Yes. I decided to pick this album because Michael Jackson's is a pretty good guy. But it's also because every song on this album, I think all 9 or 10 had reached the top 10 in the Billboard 100 list at some point as a single. So not a lot of albums can say that, you know? And this one especially being by such a prolific artist as Michael Jackson. I just figured it'd be a good pick, you know, something we could start off with a nice a legend here, basic that everybody knows and everybody can access, you know?
Oh,
because
yeah.
You might have heard of the album, you might have heard a lot of songs from it, but you might not have heard all of them, you know?
Yeah, and you know, it's a shorter album. It's an 11-track album. Now, keep in mind, the versions we're hearing is the 25th anniversary from Spotify, so the 2012 remastered. But there's only the 7. We're only talking about the original 11 tracks because I guess there's an entire other album's worth of material.
B-side, you know?
Yeah, and I'm like, we don't need to talk about that. So obviously the album, it's his 7th album. It's 5 years removed from his hit album Thriller, which is pretty much the album that solidified him as like the king of pop for pretty much ever, I think. And so to follow up that one 5 years later would have been a tough task. And the great thing about Bad is that for as short as it is, it's not without its lack of like punch, you know, like it's less than like 50 minutes. It's not really that long of a sit. And it's pretty much just banger after banger. Like this entire album is just filled with such great material. I mean, when you start off the album with Bad, the title track, Bad is a bad track, man. Not bad, obviously.
Like bad.
It's bad track. It's so good, man. Like the way that like that kind of catchy like vocal riffs kind of go where he's saying like I'm bad, you know? Yeah. I really love like kind of like the momentum of it with like the stuff.
Just such a large range with his voice, you know? Like where you can hear like kind of the screams, you know, like the high pitched voices, but also just his regular singing, you know? And so it's like
yeah, it has like kind of a very like aggressive tone to it that I don't know if a lot of his music prior to this had. Like, don't get me wrong, he had more aggressive songs in the past, like akin to this, but like not necessarily to the extent of like this kind of, hey, I'm changing. This is almost like a change of image for him in a way. Like he's now the bad boy,
right?
You know, I really do like a lot of like the little bass lines and stuff. There's a lot of interesting like background vocals, especially during the latter half of the chorus. It ends so great, like the final cut where they just cut out the music. It's like who's bad?
Yeah,
and I was like you know, it's like my entire thing just. I don't know. I felt very energized with this track.
It's a great opening track, you know, because it gets you just ready for the whole album, you know? You're just jumping on it.
Yeah. The only things I will say about the track, though, is that During like the verses, like his vocals are like very lowly mixed compared to everything else. So like I did found it a little distracting when I was trying to more focus, because I was loving the music, but I was trying to more focus on his voice.
I had that problem too in a few other songs. I think the mixing.
Yeah,
it's difficult to ascertain his voice from the background noise, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I'll also say, like, there is this weird line where, like, he's talking about, like, world peace or some shit, which I felt like didn't really fit with the song at all.
And bad, or?
Yeah, no. Like here, let me find the lyrics. I'll go to Lyric Genius.
What's so bad about world peace?
We can change the world tomorrow. This could be a better place. If you don't like what I'm saying, then won't you slap my face? Yeah. Which I was that verse is kind of like weird, because it's like the whole song.
Because maybe he's like saying, "Hey, I'm bad, but this is what I want to do. If you're gonna get in my way, you're gonna get punched." But his way just happens to be world peace. That sounds pretty bad to me.
I was waiting for you to say it. I was like, oh, he's gonna say something. Okay, and that leads us into track number 2, The Way You Make Me Feel, which, I don't know about you, but I'd say is even better than bad.
Like, the way it makes me feel.
Yeah, like here's the thing about this song, you know, like, it's just...
That's like the king of pop coming back, you
know? No, it really is. Like, it's pretty much just, like, has a really, like, fun, like, kind of heartfelt energy to it, you know? Like, just, like, the passion that you have for somebody who just kind of, like, makes you feel better than who you are, and just kind of more exuberant, you know? Like, I really like a lot of, like, the lyrical context. I think that the music is very breezy, but also very, like, fulfilling, you know? Like, it doesn't feel like there's anything, like, lacking in the production, I think, you know? I also really appreciate, like, its kind of, like, groovy tone. Like, even though it feels sensual in a way. Yeah, you know, you feel like, you know, you're West Side Story just snapping on alongside of the walls, you know? It's just such a good, like, little, like, thing, in terms of just kind of the feeling you get, the sentiment of the song. I personally think it's, like, one of the strongest tracks on the whole project, not just, like, even compare it to Bad, you know. So 2 tracks in, we're already getting like pretty.
We're already peaking, right here.
We're already peaking. Well, we also got we go into like track number 3, which is a Speed Demon, which I do think is a little bit on a lesser tier compared to the first 2.
It's more like trying to get that bad boy aesthetic back, you know. Like,
yeah, you know.
You know.
Yeah, you know, you're driving over and you're just kind of like going through the freeway, and I do like the whole Speed Demon.
Yeah,
and then like the little like drums and stuff.
Percussion heavy instrument, you know, the bass line's heavy.
Yeah, too, they got a lot of like, it definitely feels like a more like rocky tracks.
Tonally it's shifting from the last song, you know, because it's just more like poppy, and this one's definitely more rocky, you know.
Yeah, and then you know, like I guess the biggest thing about this is that I didn't really care for the verses that much, because they were very short, and it was kind of like, sometimes Michael Jackson can get into his MJ-isms, you know, and he is kind of relying on that, you know, like the typical stereotype Michael Jackson. It's a stereotype for a reason. He is constantly doing that in his music. And during the verses, like, none of it was really like stepping out at me like lyrically or anything. I like the chorus a lot, and then you get into like the Speed Demon bridge where he's like doing that like very high falsetto, you know, and he talks about like, you know, having the future in your hands and living by the moment. Like, it felt a lot more visceral and a lot more connected to this like persona in the song rather than like the verses did, you know. So I was a much bigger fan of like the latter half of the song than I was like the first half.
So it got better as it went along.
It did get better as it went along. I wasn't really a fan of the verses in here, but I still think it's a great song. Like, it's still continuing that momentum of this album does have like a good track going for it, you know. We get to track number 4, Libertarian Girl.
No, Liberian
Girl?
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce. Liberian Girl.
Liberian.
Yeah, and maybe the reason I can't pronounce it is because I don't know.
You're not attached to.
I'm not attached to the song. I gotta admit, like, and 4 tracks in, this was the 4th song I heard, and after I heard it, I was kind of like, that was fine. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to.
What's so great about this MJ guy?
Yeah. No, obviously, like, look, aesthetically speaking, I do like a lot of the vocal stuff. I do like how he kind of plays with his range in this one a little bit. It definitely is a more sensual song, kind of like a more like, oh girl, you kind of like being in with me, you know? And I do kind of like the beginning. It has kind of like a very moody tone to it, you know? And at the end of the day, when I'm just kind of like looking at like what he's really like saying, you know, like there's some cringe stuff in here. I'm not gonna lie, you know. There's a lyrics where he's like, just like in the movies where two lovers in a scene, do you love me? Like that, the whole sentiment of like comparing their thing to like the love of a movie. Like I felt like he had already touched upon like that.
Offensive to movies?
It's not offensive to movies. I just don't think like it had like any purpose in this song, you know. I didn't really care for it that much. I mean, nothing about like the lyrics really came up. Like, you kiss me, you do this to me, you know. I don't know. To me, it just kind of felt like one of the more lighter tracks in terms of the impact it had on me, you know. Like I mean, especially compared to the quality.
You are not a Liberian girl. So
okay, well, what are you gonna say about this song? I'm the only one talking about it.
Well, yeah, you just have a lot of negative things to say. I think it's actually really good. I really like this song.
Okay.
Because I just thought, like, a lot of the reasons, because, like, the way the beats were playing, you know, and it was like it's like a love-making song, you know? Like, this is something to play in the bedroom. And it's just, like, hearing his voice and, like, knowing that, like, it's lacking a lot of, like, a punch, because it's not an incredibly emotional song, because it's more, like, laying it out on the line, you know? It's like, hey, this is what I love about you, you know, we do this, you know? It's not like another song later or the one beforehand, you know? The way you make me feel, where it's kind of like all jubilant. It's like this one's more like, it just comes off across as like, it's almost serious, you know, which is strange because it's supposed to be like a love ballad, you know. So that's why I think it just, the way he plays it is very nice, and it's just nice. It's very soothing. I've been listening to it. It's like something I play with in the bathtub or something.
Okay, all right, and listen, fair enough. I think that on an 11-track album, 4 tracks in, that being the first like miss was kind of like, all right. Like, I don't even consider it a miss per se. I think it's just like, compared to the rest of the songs on the album, like, it's bottom tier. Like, I don't think there's a song weaker on that project than this one. And I'll be honest, I heard it 3 times and I thought, yeah, if I ever listen to this album again, it's a skippable song for me. It's not one that I feel like the need to hear again, really. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. But we end up going with track number 5, "Just Good Friends," which what?
Tell him that we're just good friends.
Yeah, featuring Stevie Wonder. In case you didn't know, he was portions in the second verse and did like some of the chorus and bridges and stuff like that. You know. There's definitely a lot to like about this song. I do like this one a lot. I think that Good Friends kind of has a really cool vibe about, like, you know, kind of giving your love to somebody that isn't really like advertising it, and then you kind of want to keep it a secret, but you're also kind of worried that the lack of attention that she's bringing to what you two are as an item is kind of affecting, you know, your relationship itself. And I really like that lyrical content. I think vocally everyone was on point. MJ and Stevie Wonders have great chemistry together on the choruses, and there's a lot of really fun kind of energetic vibes to it, you know. I do appreciate that, you know, it has like a lot of your typical kind of like falsettos and background vocals, but they're really like mixed together very well, I think, in this song particularly. I mean, he doesn't really do a lot of duets, I guess. The only other duet I think he has is later down the line, but yeah, no, this is a really great song. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely, this is like one to listen to, you know, like just hearing them. It's kind of like because, you know, he's famous and he's like playing it tongue-in-cheeky, you know, kind of thing, like, tell them we're just good friends, like we're not doing nothing, but obviously we are, and obviously I love you, and I don't need you to show me that love to know that it's there, you know? So it's like a good sentiment, and like just hearing everything about it. It's definitely one of the better tracks on the album too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I would agree.
I would say, like, there are definitely not really a lot, like, I have to say that's kind of like negative about that one. Only just that.
I think the mixing, I would say, in that one was one
you had problems with some of the mixing and stuff? Yeah, I mean, and there are a couple of songs where I feel like the audio is like kind of lower, and I guess that's more of a present issue in sometimes. But granted, this also could be a remaster, so maybe like the original versions had better like vocal audio, you know? I mean, we transitioned to track number 6, Another Part of Me, which is another just banger of a
Yeah,
song. I mean, like,
banger.
but there's not much you can really say about, like, at least, like, initially, because it has a much more funkier, like, aesthetic to it. Like, a lot of the other ones were kind of, like, groovy, some of it was sensual, but this one
really
was,
has
like...
to kind of flip-flop. You know, half of them I think have been kind of groovy, and half have been more, like, aggressive, rocky, you know?
Yeah, and this one is kind of, like, a definitely, like, funky sound, and they have, like, a lot of, like, you know, use of horns in this track that I think are really effective and kind of bringing out that energy. I really do like some interesting, like, lyrical choices that he does, kind of comparing, like...
I like the way his voice, like, it's not like a growl, but like when he's saying the chorus, you know? Like, just kind of like the aggression you feel. Like, it's a lot of emotion in his voice, you know?
Right. Like the sending out for major love and stuff, and sending the message. Yeah, I kind of like a lot of, like, the planets similar, like in the chorus, like, planets are lighting up, we're brighter, or bringing brighter days, you know, like, that's actually, you know, that's a bar, you know? And there are a lot of, like, really good, like, lyrical content in here, and it's one of the more, I think it's one of the shorter tracks on the album, I think. Compared to the other ones, but I think that it worked that way better, you know, because I really appreciated this kind of, like, the interesting, like, imageries that they're bringing, you know, and, like, the kind of, like, heartfelt energy that this track kind of had with, like, the funky groove. Everything about it pretty much just worked. I really think that this is also another really strong song on how the thing goes. And then, I mean, we go to track 7, which is Man in the Mirror. And
It brings a tear to my eye just thinking about it.
Yeah, this song is maybe... I mean, I haven't heard every song he's done. I've heard a lot of his, like, big songs. And, like, this is probably at top 3 MJ songs for me, maybe. It's so good. It's so powerful in kind of the story that it's telling about, like, the perspective of someone who's seen the world in a much more, like, real light than he ever has before, you know? And
like
the...
like an epiphany, you know?
Yeah, the epiphany that, like, the individual is partly the cause for the whole's destruction, you know? And, like, the fact that, you know, he wants to make a change in himself and wants to figure out, like, listen, if I have to change, if I want to help make the world a better place, you know, I got to take a look at myself and make a change. That's a great... Yeah, and listen, like, in a lot of other songs that are similar to this, I do feel like maybe the on-the-nose, like, kind of direct way of talking might have been a little bit, like, cheesy or come off overbearing. But I think MJ's vocal, like, performance finds a way to kind of, like, make, like, his soft tones and, like, his kind of energy really, like, profound in what he's saying. Because it's not just, like, a message for him, because as the song goes on, you get, like, the more, like, bigger scales, you get, like, the more chorustral, like, images come in, and, like, by the end, you get, like, just so much, like, great vocals from, like, choirs and just,
and then all
like,
the ad-libs start coming in there, you know? All the Michael
like,
Jacksonisms.
It really does feel like a song of epic proportions that you're listening to. And
like someone's life, you know, as it builds up, you know? Like, to be incredible from, like, beginning greatness, from small beginnings, as they say.
Yeah, and you know, like, it's a song about, like, looking at the self, feeling out who you want to be and the changes you have to make. And it's vague enough to where it can apply to everyone, but the music itself and the performance is dynamic enough to where it feels very personal to Michael himself. You know, it's him realizing that he also needs to, like, make that change and stuff. And whatever that change may be at the time. I don't know what he was going through in the 80s. You know, but, you know, it's a fantastic song. It's one of the best, like, songs maybe ever. I don't know. Like,
top 10 best songs ever.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really done, like, a list like that, you know? I mean, I have, like, my 10 go-to, but even then I feel like that needs to be revised, because that's been my same 10 for, like, 10 years. I don't know, so we'll have to...
So it's just very subjective, you know?
Exactly, you know?
Feel good to listen to, you know?
Yeah, so, and sometimes my favorite songs aren't even ones I revisit often, and then the ones I visit more, I'm thinking, do I like these songs better than those ones? But I don't really think so. Anyways... We're not going to get into that. All you need to know is this song's a banger.
Yes.
Then we get into track number 8, which is I Just Can't Stop Loving You. Why don't you talk about this one first?
This one, because, well, to me, you know, if there has to be a bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
It would be this one, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's just very, like, soulless, you know?
Oh, really?
Like, it's just kind of like the cop-out song, like, oh, you know, I just can't, we gotta love each other, you know? And it's like, I'm nothing without you. Where would I be without you, you know? And it's just sort of like, it's like he's putting all his value like onto her, like onto their relationship, you know? But it doesn't like make it seem like he values her as a person. More so he values like him being with her, you know? Maybe that's just like, that's kind of the vibe I got from this. Maybe that's why I didn't like it so much. But as far as like the music, it goes, sure, yeah, like I love his performance, I love his voice, you know? And everything else, so like, especially about the beats, you know? Like, it wasn't exactly something I don't think it was doing anything like too much Michael Jackson-isms, and maybe that kind of held it back because it sounded very generic, you know?
Okay.
It didn't sound like a song. It sounded like a song anybody could have sang, not Michael Jackson, you know?
Okay, and to be fair, I can attest to that. Like I don't think that this is one of like the best tracks on the album, but in an entire album where like 10 out of the 11 tracks I'd give like 8s or higher. Like that's not really saying much. Like it's one of the bottom 3 probably, but I would still say it's a great like love duet. I really like the energy that it brings, especially during the chorus, because I will admit that one of my issues is that the verse does seem much more minimalist than a lot of the other song, maybe any other song on the album. But I don't necessarily disagree that like he doesn't value her, because like literally in the intro he's talking about how he never feels the same with other people. You know, he's complimenting her eyes, her looks, you know, and not even in a sexual way. There's even lines where he's just saying that I just want to hold you, you know, like, so I feel like that there was an initial like connection there. So listening to it through that lens, it seems like a very nice, soft, sensual type of song, you know, that you would just play if you're just trying to not Netflix and chill, but yes. I don't know,
you want to skip the Netflix,
straight to the chill, just not even just chilling, just holding and chilling. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like it is one of like the weaker tracks on the album, but I love most of the tracks on the album, so I can't really say that as like a total negative thing, you know. But I do understand where you're coming from. It's not necessarily the most interesting, and like musically speaking, it's definitely more minimalist compared to the other tracks on the song, I think, or the tracks on the album.
Yes. Okay, so that was of course still a good song though. We'll listen to it. Okay, I don't think there's any skippable songs on this.
Oh, okay, fair. Well, I mean, look, the next song, Dirty Diana, track number 9.
Put that at the beginning. That should have been track number 2.
Yeah, that should have been track number... No, I actually love where it's placed here, because having this song kind of after, like, the kind of... Because you get, like, Man in the Mirror, and that's, like, who, you know? Yeah. That's a big one. And then you get... you transition to, like, the I Just Can't Stop Loving You, which is kind of, like, a softer stuff then. And then, I don't know. Or was Man... Yeah, it was
Man in the Mirror.
Yeah, and Dirty Diana, man... Like, when I first heard this song, I was, like, just, like, absorbed with
smack that bitch.
Yeah. But you know what, though? Like, it paints an interesting picture of, like, that type of world and that type of, like, seduction. Not just, like, with what Diana would do to people, but, like, what ultimately, like, those people are doing to themselves, you know, and
like
it
last verse,
and
know?
Yeah, and it kind of like paints an interesting picture of the groupie lifestyle in a way that like I've never really heard another mainstream pop song do. Like, I think this is like the 6th single off the album, and it's just crazy to think that like he had so many hits off of this shit, you know? I love, like, the audience aesthetic that this has, you know? At the beginning, you know, it's, like, starting off and it's, like, really tense and, like, it kind of draws you in, and then you hear crowd noises and stuff, and it kind of complements the thing. And this is one of the few ones where Michael Jackson is actually very reserved in how he's performing. Like, you don't see a lot of his isms and stuff. He's telling just, like, a straight...
It's like he's mad, you know?
Story. Yeah, but, like, he has that passion still, you know? Even in the latter portions, you know, like he's like building up his aggression, and it does not have a chorus really. It's just Dirty Diana, and then it's just like, oh, every time he says that, you just feel like the power in it, you know? And then like mix that with like the audience reactions, the kind of like great like guitar playing, you know, just the entire vibe of the song. Like it's I'm head over heels for it. Like I've listened to this song more than any on the album. That well, granted, this is one of the only ones that I don't really think I've heard prior to the album. I mean, I'm sure I've heard it in passing, maybe, but I've never gone out of my way to hear it, nor did I knowingly hear it. Right. So, you know, it's just been bumping all over the place. You know, this is my favorite. So this is probably my only behind Billie Jean. This is probably my second favorite Michael Jackson song. Like, it would probably go that, and then Way You Make Me Feel, and then probably Beat It. Those would probably be my top 4 and stuff. But yeah, I love the song.
No, okay, yeah, no, I didn't realize. But no, definitely, yeah. I agree with everything you say about it. You know, it's incredibly appealing, you know, just the emotion he's putting into it, you know? And like we said, like, you know, the whole themes he's touching up upon, like, and especially towards the end, kind of giving into that, you know? Like how it's just sort of prevalent, and most other songs would say, like, oh yeah, I love all my bitches, my hoes come at me, you know? But this song is like, I don't like that. I don't like having all these hoes around me. Like, it's bad. Get them away from me.
Yeah, and it almost plays it almost like it's like kind of like a musician to a drug habit, you know,
like
where it's like he is actively like knowing that there are things he should get away from, but he's always being pulled back in, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a perfect song in my opinion, you know. I just loved it as soon as like I heard it. It was one of those like unequivocal 10 songs, you know.
Like instantly when you heard it.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, this is just awesome. Okay. And then we go into track number 10, which is Smooth Criminal. Yes, this is another track which is just so crazy. How you have these 2 tracks back to back, and when you're listening to
you don't expect to hear it on an album. Like, up to this point in this album, I think it's nothing like this song, you know? Like, it's just because, like, yeah, he has had a lot of the falsettos, you know? But, like, the way he sings it, and, like, the way he, like, kind of takes his pitch to the next level, you know? Like, kind of talking about, like, it's like he's throwing his voice across the room, you know?
Yeah.
During the song. And so I don't think it's been done any point in this album beforehand, you know?
Yeah, you know, like, it's definitely like a surround sound feel, especially when you're like, Annie, are you okay? Yeah. And then he's just going all around the room, and yeah, it's a really like dark and moody track, you know, and especially, yeah, we've had like angry tracks before, but like this is getting into some like, some girl just got like assaulted or worse. We don't really know, because like there's so many like weird like imageries, you know, like where he struck you, there was blood on the carpet. So you're thinking of what the implications are in this event. You're never really explicitly told what's happened, but you know that an incident happened and that there is some sort of ramification for it, you know? And it's a very strange MJ song, I will say. But it's also one of his best, I think, because like it really kind of highlights like the potential he had for kind of creative like imagery making stories without necessarily giving you too much detail to where you're reading like a novel. You know, you feel like you have a good idea of this incident without even really him saying a lot. You know, he doesn't have too many different lyrics in this, but like the lyrics that you have are very visceral, and they're very like, ear grabbing, I should say. And obviously his vocals are top tier. I love the chorus in this. There's Smooth Criminal's a classic. You know, I've always listened to both this version and like the Alien Ant Farm version, the rock one, which at one point I was like, that's better, but like I don't know, I don't think that's true now. But like I still like both versions. I mean, that's probably the only good Alien Ant Farm song that I know of. At least.
That's the only one you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All I know is Smooth Criminal.
Very true.
But it's still really good though. It definitely is like a song that just grabs your attention, and you want to know what happens next, you know?
Exactly.
And like the way he's singing it, you know, like it's like he's on the edge of your seat, you know, singing it. So it kind of gives you like that anxiety too, you know, coming into it, just because you're relating to like what you're hearing.
Yeah,
the high tempos and stuff kind of brings your heart rate up already, you know, and because of that, like you're more interested in it.
Yeah, and listen, I completely, it's okay. I completely agree with that, you know. And that leads us to the final track on the album.
No!
The final track, Leave Me Alone.
Okay.
You should have just opened the door and walked out. No.
All loud and shit.
Yeah, and then he's like, I guess I'm talking about this one alone.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, so this one is also one that I really like. I do kind of like the the vibe that this song kind of brings to kind of close out the album, you know? It's definitely, like, not as heavy as the previous tracks, but it does have enough, like, variety in its music to not really feel like one of the lighter ones. But I will admit that, like, it doesn't necessarily end on the best song it could have. This is definitely one of, like, the kind of more, kind of songs for me. I still like it. I still think it's a very good song. But it's not necessarily one that I know that I'll revisit anytime soon. Like, I'll revisit it before the other one. Liberian Girl?
No. Liberian.
Liberian. Why can I not say that?
It's a country.
Okay. Like library.
Liberian Girl.
Yeah, because that's what I thought it was when I was like, librarian girl? Like, okay.
And you're like, why is he so hot for his librarian?
That's what I was thinking. Anyways, go ahead. What was your final thoughts on this song?
On this final song? No, I would say what you're saying. Like, definitely seemed like it was something near and personal to him, you know, because it's kind of more about like the media and like how they portray people and stuff, you know, and how he kind of just wants to get out of that limelight. But like, yeah, it wasn't really something that like, I guess it just wasn't something he was really equipped to touch up on, you know? Like, it just didn't seem like he had as much to say about that as he did about other subjects. And I know, like, his heart wasn't any meant to be in there, you know? And it is kind of like one of those, like, again, with the bad boy aesthetic, you know? Like, you kind of wanted to end with that because it started with that. Right. So I understand thematically its purpose, but I just think it wasn't executed as well as it could have been. But it still is Michael Jackson, and he obviously, he carries it at a certain point, you know? Like, it just can't be that bad just because it's him. At least in his early work here. But yeah, I would probably still say it's one of the weaker ones as well.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I do appreciate it in terms of some lyrics from that content. You know, I do like the idea that, like, he is kind of tackling, like, you know, topics that, like, somebody of his fame level would, like, kind of have to deal with, you know? And listen, I still like the song. I just don't know if, like, again, it's on the same type of tier that the rest of the album is. Which is still a classic album. Like, overall, like, this is a really great project, and the fact that even MJ could muster so many hits out of one album. Back. I don't even think Thriller had this many hits from that album. So. You know, it had, I think, maybe 4 or something.
It had a less, yeah. That's why I was looking it up, because this was the most from any Michael Jackson album.
Yeah,
know?
And
but it probably was riding the coattails of the success of Thriller. You
know,
know,
of course, but like 5 years after the fact, like Thriller was like, they weren't thinking about Thriller still. You know, they were ready for new material, and the fact that he not just delivered, but like he gave us a full buffet of different types of like artistry and like things. Like, in a lot of ways, I think that this is a better album than Thriller. I think that, like, I mean, I've only heard that other album. I haven't heard a lot of his other solo projects, but this is a great project. And even the you know, the song I'm not that into, or a couple of songs that are there, their quality musically and the vocal performances are still strong enough to where I would recommend this album to anybody who is remotely into music, you know, because like this is just kind of a groundbreaking record, you know.
No, yes.
And I mean, I would definitely give it like a light 9.
No, honestly, yeah. I think I would think about that too. Like, I should still give it a few more re-listens just because I want to, you know?
Yeah, no, like, and listen, I've just been bumping this the last couple of weeks because that's all I've just been listening to, really, so.
It's incredible. I would definitely stick with the 9 as well, you know? I want to just envelop myself in Michael Jackson and in his bosom.
In his bosom,
yes. On the teat of his intelligence. Not intelligence. What's the word? Musical skills. I love that.
With musical skills.
Yes.
I would love to have his music skills.
I want everything. But no. Anyways, it's just a good album. Give it a listen. Good album. 2 thumbs up.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. This is actually the shortest episode we've ever had. Yeah. I mean, it still ran over about an hour 20.
They speak for themselves, you know, the objects and items we played. If you heard or know of them, then you know this as well.
Exactly, yeah. So we have new recs to give out.
Time marches on.
We are now back to the original rotation, where I'm doing a movie, my brother's doing a video game, and we are mutually talking about an album. Now, since the next episode is coming out in October time, I should say, Halloween.
Yeah.
October time.
October time is Halloween.
All of our shows during October time are going to be horror themed. Now, that is difficult in some aspects, so we're kind of trying to tittle with that idea a little bit. Darker themed, not necessarily horror-based, because not all of the things we're talking about are exclusively really horror, but they have a different aesthetic to the stuff we've been discussing. So, for my movie rec, I've decided that we are going to do a trilogy of movies, which I've pass by him, obviously, first of all. It's not like he doesn't know, I guess.
A whole 3 movies.
A whole 3 movies. But they're all very short. They're all different types, kind of. But we're going to be talking about the Evil Dead trilogy. So the Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. Those are the 3 films in the trilogy. I don't know if we'll make a day out of it, maybe. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, it would probably be a fun little time to do. But yeah, we will be discussing all 3 of the films on that show. And that will be my rec. So, Lucas.
Okay.
You have a video game rec.
And probably get a compensate for the trilogy of films we're watching, but partly because it is difficult to find lengthy, like, horror, dark themed games or darker themed games, at least that aren't like a Resident Evil kind of game. Because I was also trying to steer away from mainstream games, you know?
Okay, you were trying to go with something not that.
Yeah, like, I wasn't trying to just pick, like, Outlast, you know, or Resident Evil, because, or, you know, what's the other one? Oh, dead air right now. I'm sorry.
I can edit it down.
No, the Machine for Pig ones. Amnesia.
Okay.
I think they made another one.
Yeah.
But no, so I decided to go with this. It's like an indie game. The game is called Inside. It's maybe like a 2.5 kind of 3D game. Basically, you know, you move around and you go up and down. You have to move things. It's sort of a dystopian society. It's made by the same people who made Limbo, which is another sort of indie game. So I don't know too much about it, but I just know that the themes are sort of like authoritarian, and I've seen some screenshots, and there was robots and stuff, and all the colors are really dark, so I'm just imagining.
Yeah, so aesthetically, it fits kind of like the more October theme.
Yes,
you know?
Something kind of like depressing that we can maybe start off or bookend on with, you know. But I'm not sure, so hopefully it pays out for me. So we'll experiment on this one here, you know. But it sounds good. It looks good, and I know Inside got a lot of good reviews, and it's made by the same people, so I have confidence that we'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. And so for the album, I mean, we both tried to look at stuff that were horror themed, and it's not like it's kind of difficult, really, to find music, to find something.
You just do like a soundtrack.
Yeah, that's because a lot of things that came up were like the Halloween soundtrack or Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was thinking like I don't want to do like a straight soundtrack, but there is an album that I have heard before, but I haven't heard in a while, but I do think it would fit the qualifications of being a horror or at least kind of intense based album. So I'm going with the newest Daughters record, You Won't Get What You Want. It's from 2018, I believe.
What if I want good music?
Well, I don't know. It's a noise rock album, but the album is it goes a lot more than that. I can't even, because Lucas, you've never heard any song from this at all.
No idea.
You have no idea.
I know who Daughtry is.
It's not Daughtry.
No.
Oh. For a split second, I thought, did he think I said Daughtry?
No, he said Daughters.
Daughters, yes. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting listen. My brother's not necessarily a heavy rock type person, but it's not quite screamo, so we'll see how you like this. I will tell you this: you listen beginning to end, it plays very much like a horror movie, pretty much. Not necessarily lyrically, although lyrically there are some like really like woof, you know. But yeah, it's just one of those records. That's all I'll warn you with.
All right, okay. I'm gonna steadfast. Shut myself down in a chair, you know?
Mm-hmm, and figure it out.
Peel my eyelids back open. It's like a robot chicken, you know?
Oh, yeah. He just puts the eyes in the thing.
I'm watching all the TVs.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so talked about last week's Rex. We talked about next week's Rex. I think we're all almost ready to wrap it up here.
Yeah, right? The only thing we got to do is our Would You Rather.
Yes.
I've been looking through some of these Would You Rathers, and I think I found one that's interesting. Okay. So, it's not horror-based at all.
Well, next one. Are you going to make maybe
I'll try to make all the Would You Rathers horror-based. Okay. The next couple ones.
Yes.
So, this is the last one. Would you rather never get another present in your life, but always pick the perfect present for everyone else, or keep getting presents, but give terrible ones to everyone else?
That one's kind of fucked.
That is a very fucked one, because you don't want to not get good gifts.
You're kind of taking an L either way, you know?
Like, yeah, because either you'll be known as the guy who never gives good gifts. Yes. Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. if you decide that you're going to make all your gifts handmade and you just fuck it up, then they'll feel like the assholes for, like, talking shit about things you did with your bare hands.
Maybe, but at a certain point, it's like, oh, it's the 4th year in a row he's tried making me.
You could,
like,
you could just buy me a gift card.
Yeah, like, dude, come on.
Well, okay.
They might think it's, like, spiteful.
But here's the thing. Never get a present again. Now, I'm interpreting present as just major stuff. Not like, if someone
Christmas
lends...
and birthdays.
Christmas and birthdays. You never get a present on your Christmas or birthdays.
No sorts of gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because gifts are different than presents, you know?
Yeah. So, I feel like I could sacrifice that. Because I feel like I could just get my gifts on a different day that's not my birthday, right? so, like...
Like, someone would still pay you for your dinner or something. But I don't think you'd get, like, no one would say, I got you something for your birthday.
Right,
like,
but they would be like, maybe if they wanted to just get me something offhand.
I mean,
not
sure,
like a
like,
big thing, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like, no one's just going to buy me a PS5.
I mean, yeah, like, I can see what you're saying. Like, if you've given someone really good gifts and you're good friends with them, and they see something at a store you might like a shirt or something or a poster, and they'll get it for you, and they're like, hey, I got you this. You know, it's not I think that would count, because it's a gift, it's not a present, you know? But as far as someone seeing something and thinking, oh, I'll get that for Andre's birthday or for Christmas for him, that wouldn't happen. So I think you would definitely not get as many gifts as many of those times, but it would still be worth it to be the guy who gives great gifts to people. I just think that'd be really cool, because I always hate showing up to like my family, you know, during Christmas and not having enough.
And not having any gifts, because you're like, wow.
But if I had everybody, if I walked out like us, damn, he got me a good gift that year. Like, it's just
every year you would get that, you know, you would give great gifts. So
I know people's birthdays and stuff, you know, like especially if it's somebody like not like I like or something, or I don't like, or like somebody else doesn't like. I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna one up everybody else at that party, you know, with the gift I'm giving this person, you know.
The office Christmas party, you're just like, hey.
So I could be like stupid drunk at the party, or like be stupid and like, all right, well, he got me this cool ass toaster.
So I guess we can excuse him vomiting in the water fountain.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty meta when you think about it.
Yeah, I would agree. I would rather not get gifts, because I think giving gifts, is what it's all about, you know? Mm-hmm. You help someone else's life, and just because no one does it to you, I don't know. You can still do it. Yeah. It's because, truthfully, no one really loves you.
They don't want you there. They just invite you because you give them good gifts.
That's the opposite side, though, because like you'll just be an asshole the whole time, but everyone will just tolerate you. I don't want that either. You know, I just want to be a good person. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I guess I would give the gifts and take the things.
All things considered, yes.
Yeah, overall. But yeah, okay. Yeah, tune in next episode where we discuss the Evil Dead Trilogy Inside, as well as the... You know what? Before I say that, I just thought, like, what if we watch like Bo Burnham's Inside instead of like playing the game or something? Or like, hey,
the comedy fish.
I'm ready to go inside. I mean, we really could, I guess, and that could be like our intro.
That's true. But it would be like a fake horror theme, you know? It's
a
like
fake horror thing. Yeah, or that's true. Start off like, oh, it's just a normal episode. But no. The real final one is Daughters. You don't get your one. Okay.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna be like, we're gonna do Evil Dead Inside Daughters.
Oh my gosh! Just combine all of the three.
Whoa! I mean, they're different things.
Yeah, like, that is way different. Or like instead of like Inside, we just played like the Evil Within, so it's the Evil Dead, the Evil Within. But yeah.
I was thinking that one, but that one is a little longer. You know?
Oh yeah, no, I totally.
And the sequel too as well. Because it looks really cool. But anyways, yes.
Okay. That is our picks.
Have a good one, guys.